was cut double digits times in the NFL. And so there were a lot of those Tuesdays that were really long and just kind of wondering what's going to be next. This year we should just do over 2 million for what we're looking at right now. We've grown probably about 25,000 to 50,000 each month. Our whole motto is we make moving fun, because we know moving is a ton of fun, which is why we exist. It's like just below like the death of a family member.
Welcome to the Franchise Champion Show. I'm your host, Alan Regala, CEO and founder of Athlete to Owner Franchise Coaching. I was a D1 athlete and used the principles of high performance training to build and sell a multi-million-dollar franchise business. And now I want to help others do the same. So let's go. I'm excited to welcome today's guest, Drew Chrisman. Drew has a true athlete to owner story. He was a collegiate football star at Ohio State, then was a punter for the Cincinnati Bengals, and now is the proud franchise owner of Pink Zebra Moving of the greater Cincinnati area. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me, Alan. I didn't know punter and star ever made it in the same sentence in my career.
Of course.
I will gladly take that accolade if you'll give it to me.
Of course. Well, as I said, I'm super excited to speak with you. Before we dive into this transition from NFL player to owning a business, I'd like to know, what was it like going from collegiate football to the NFL?
Obviously very similar. I mean, you're going to a locker room, and I mean, my job itself didn't change too much. The ball was a little different. Other than that, my goal was to kick it as high and as far as I possibly could and make the returner's life as hard as possible. And so, but really the biggest change between college and NFL was just the speed of the game. There's a lot of big guys in college that, I pride myself on being a tall guy myself. I mean, I'm 6'3", over 200 pounds, 220 when I was at my biggest in college. And so as the size-wise, I was, I didn't feel like I was getting towered over, but just these guys, the speed that they are bringing to the game now. You just look at their calves or their quads, and it's just like, that is a tree trunk that these guys are running around with. And that's the biggest name in the game that I had to get comfortable with. And when I first transitioned, like my op time itself was, comparable for college, but the NFL with those guys coming off the edge and everything at a different speed, everything has to be faster. Speed kills, and it's certainly at that level.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's an interesting thing, with professional sports. I think most people who don't pay serious attention to all the players in the game, but generally see, the stars of the game, and can imagine what it's like to be, one of the stars that they see in every game. But I'm curious to know your perspective, just like what it was like to be, a player in the NFL, as far as like what is life like, really, like, from the standpoint of outside the game, what does that look like?
I was a punter. It's not like I was Joe Burrow or anything where, it's hard for me to go outside and go public places because people are paparazzi or people will come up asking for autographs. I mean, to be honest, the lifestyle of mine didn't change too much. I was an undrafted, a free agent punter as well. So, I was just trying to scratch and claw. I was on practice squad for the first couple of years of my career, finally broke it onto the active roster, coming on my third season there, and then was unfortunately let go by the end of that year. And so when you think of an NFL player, the superstars in a sense, that's not 90% of the NFL.
Right.
Most of the guys are just trying to scratch and claw and make it to the next week. I always called them Bloody Tuesdays. That was when if you're on the active roster, you did not want to call that day. If you're on the practice squad or, a free agent or something, you hope you get a call that day, because then you might get elevated up to the active roster for an injury, or, there's a spot opened up on another team, someone went down, and you can get immediately traded on to that job, onto that team for the active roster that way. So Tuesdays were sometimes very, very long, and hoping the phone didn't ring or did ring a lot of the times. But as far as the outside life itself, I was just more worried about keeping my job than all the accolades that might come with the NFL, because it never really felt like we made it. Didn't really feel like we were ever secure, my wife and I, just because it's a pretty brutal cycle in the specialist world. You miss one kick or shank one punt, you might be on the streets the next day.
So
sitting there putting all our eggs in one basket by any means.
Well, I mean, that is really what I find kind of fascinating. I played golf this one time, and it was with an ex Seahawks guy, like a lineman, and just randomly we ended up getting paired together. And he was telling me a bit about what you just mentioned about just like the going from to the practice squad and those transitions. So that's really like to me, what I'm curious to know is like what that part is like because I didn't realize how just shaky that is and how like unstable that is, and I can't imagine how difficult that must be just going from like week to week and just wondering if you're still going to be there or if you're not, and then do you you know do you start looking elsewhere or do you like try to double down and focus on that, like that's got to be tough.
There's a lot of instability. Certainly having my wife through the whole process. She was there every single day and going through it with me, but so she was always a little on edge too, just because I mean she didn't know what was going to happen one week or next. But kind of going through that with somebody certainly helped that process. But yeah, I mean, I guess going back to an earlier question, the biggest difference between college and NFL is, yeah, I didn't know what next week looked like. College, I was there for 5 years at Ohio State and pretty much had a routine throughout the entire 5 years that I was there. NFL is, I mean, every single game, sometimes even practices are, a job interview. And so if you're not on your best and you weren't drafted in the first couple days of the NFL draft, if you're on that third day or signed after the draft, get ready for a whole lot of instability because it takes a lot of luck, certainly a lot of hard work, but someone to believe in you enough to, give you that chance and then go out there and prove it enough to where they want to stick you, they want to see you in the locker room again next week because at the end of the day, their NFL is just trying to put the best product out on the field. And if you rubbed someone the wrong way or had a poor performance the week before, it might not be you that next week. So,
Right, right. Wow. Well, I imagine that, we on this show talk about the, things needed to succeed in the business world. And I imagine, there's a lot of grit that you really have to get through that.
right. Yeah, I mean, that certainly has definitely played a huge part and been able to, when something bad happens in the business world, I'm not just going to curl up in a ball under my desk and, hope it just goes away. I mean, I was cut, double digits times in the NFL. And so there were a lot of those Tuesdays that were really long and just kind of wondering what's going to be next. And then a couple of weeks would go by and keep training, just keep ready for that next opportunity. And then something comes and then you go make the best of it and you get that next, they got the next chance. If I would have every single time I got cut or even the first time I got cut, like, man, this isn't it. Maybe this is my sign. I put on all this hard work, but it just didn't work out because I got cut this one time. My story would have been a lot different and probably wouldn't be sitting in the same seat today because I wouldn't have enough, confidence or faith in my own, the preparation I put in to go out and try something new. And so it does teach you a lot about life while you're on the field, but certainly when you're off the field as well and kind of what you have to be to continue pushing for sure.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I know it must have seemed, really tough in the moment, these things that happen, like getting cut and getting cut, more than once, but it's always nice to be able to look in hindsight and see that, it led to where, things happened the way they were supposed to be, led to something better.
Yep, certainly. Yeah, having a lot of faith, and plus seeing. I mean, I'm not the first person that's been through it. I mean, there's a multitude of stories out there, and so kind of looking at those success stories, it certainly helps a lot through that process and kind of understanding just the business nature of that industry. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. So then how did you end up, deciding that, football is no longer the path forward and, you end up getting into business?
right. I mean, it was pretty natural, and I was never one of those guys where I'd gone a year without, an NFL tryout. I played in the spring league in the UFL, so I kind of felt like I was kind of on the way out anyways. And I wasn't one of those guys that was going to be like 5 years after, I had been done playing, had any kind of interaction with a coach or anything, but I'm still staying sharp and staying ready in case that call comes. That just wasn't for me, mainly because I had a wife and two little girls at home, and so that makes that decision a lot easier as well. Like, all right, well, I can only try this for so much longer till I got to start putting, food back on the table here.
Right.
Fortunately, the NFL pays well enough to where if you have a slow year, you can still get through as long as you're, conscious about your money in a sense and not blowing through your savings. So that was kind of our plan. Was like, hey, after, a year of seeing how this process is going. If things aren't trending in the direction that we want, let's see what else is out there. And so I had a great time with football. It certainly gives you a heck of a head start in life, and that opened up a lot of doors that would have never been opened up before if I hadn't gone down that path. But also having enough awareness that, real life starts when football ends. That was something that was taught to me at a very early age by my father. He was a business owner, small business owner, an entrepreneur his whole life. And so certainly seeing that, at a young age kind of showed me like, there's a lot of ways to make money in this world rather than just kicking a football too. And,
Yeah.
and the freedom that will allow. And I would say job security, but as a small business owner, you never know what the next day is going to hold as well. Very similar to the NFL, but at least I can show up next day and try to work whatever went wrong the day before. So
Right. So I'd say you have a bit more control where you're at now.
yeah, definitely compared to where I was at before. At least I was. It's in my own hands for the most part, rather than some coach who had a mood change that week for some reason or another. So,
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned you grew up, your dad is an entrepreneur, and so you grew up in an entrepreneurial household, essentially. Tell us more about that and what it was like, what kind of the things that you learned from your dad.
yeah, I mean, he's been a phenomenal mentor even to this day. Certainly throughout starting Pink Zebra here and getting us, off the ground floor has helped me in more ways than I probably even realize. And just really just seeing the dedication it takes to build something that is not only successful but that you're proud of and that people respect you in the community. He owns multiple fireworks locations. He does fireworks and Halloween. So kind of a
Cool.
unique industry there, but I spent a lot of days just, stocking shelves during the 4th of July and kind of, building up that work ethic from a young age of, I mean, as it's a small family business, and so everybody helps out. And so we had a lot of siblings in there that are still running the operation to today, whether it be doing scheduling or running cash registers or anything of that nature. So not only seeing how he operated the system, but also being able to be in there hands-on and kind of seeing from stocking shelves up to high level, him taking me into his office and showing me supply orders and, talking about taxes and tariffs and all this fun stuff that he gets to deal with because of whatever law change or that has happened in the government has been a lot more eye-opening than I've learned in any business course when I was in college, for sure. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like getting real hands-on experience, the inner workings of a business, to have that in your family. I definitely didn't grow up in that kind of scenario, but wow, I can imagine how much more I could have learned.
yeah. And the biggest thing is just realizing that is something I'd want to do too. I mean, there's a lot of great careers out there and very stable, career fields where the 9 to 5 or anything of that nature. I just saw the lifestyle that he not only he was able to provide for my family, but also his own lifestyle where he never missed a single sporting event. My youngest sister was blessed enough to go play Division I basketball, and there was not a game that he missed of my football. Actually, no, he did miss one of my football games to go. It was the same day as my sister's first collegiate basketball game, so couldn't be in two places at once. And so
I guess that's excusable.
we'll let it slide. But other than that, I mean, he was there, whether it was coaching or just cheering us on from the stands, and that's something I want to be able to do for my own family. And not saying you can't do it with other professions, but I just knew, if you're able to build out your own schedule here and whatnot, that is the avenue I want to take to provide the life and the support that I want for my family going forward. So.
If you're wondering if franchise ownership is right for you, I'd love to help. As a franchise coach, I work one-on-one with my clients to 1. Find the perfect business match for their goals, skills, and investment level, and 2. Help them prepare to be champions in their business. Here's the best part: my coaching services are completely free. To schedule a 15-minute introduction call, visit athletetoowner.com. The link is in the show notes. Now, back to our show. And I think for most people who don't have, a business owner as a parent, they grow up and it's like, okay, you go to school, you go to college, and then, you get a job. And, in my world growing up, it was, you find a job and the thought was you stay there for, 20 years or however longer.
Right.
And that has since changed. Most people don't, stay in the same role for that long with the same company anymore. But really just understanding that business ownership is even an option and what that looks like. And, your dad, it sounds like, had an independent business, which was great, did really well, still doing well. But this whole concept of franchising is fascinating to me because it's something it's very attainable for anybody because you don't have to think of the original idea, the service, the product, whatever it is. It's like finding something that is already there and works and is proven, and then you get to, execute on it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was what drew me to franchising. And I mean, I knew I wanted to do something business related, and, I could join the family business in a sense, but I want to kind of do my own thing. And having a coach, in a sense, was very, very comfortable to me. Obviously, being a former athlete, and if someone told me to go a certain way, certain path, and just outwork that person, I was going to do that. And so that was what really drew me to franchising. Was it felt like business, but I had, a coach in my ear telling me what to do when I had a question.
Yeah.
And so that was, and that's been the case with this franchise itself, Pink Zebra. They've been a heck of a coach, and anytime I need direction, they send it my way, and I'll work harder or outwork anybody to get to that point. But sometimes, if at the beginning, there's a lot of questions and whatnot, I don't know if that would have been quite the case. I'd have been like, man, I don't know if this is, I don't know where to go, where to do. This is a complete different industry than selling fireworks, and there's not always an answer you can find just online. And so having somebody that's done it before, or even other locations that have experienced it, reaching out to them, it's not only just corporate has been super helpful, but seeing what else has gone on the network that someone else has experienced the same issues that I've dealt with myself, being able to lean on them and kind of bend their ear has been also equally as helpful as corporate, at that level.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I guess it's probably time we should actually talk about Pink Zebra Moving and what that business is.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about the company and, how you impact the lives of your clients.
Yeah, it's been fun. So basically, Pink Zebra Moving, obviously, we're a moving company, but we try to take it to another level. In terms of the customer experience side, our whole motto is we make moving fun, because we know moving is a ton of fun, which is why we exist.
It's the worst experience ever. I hate moving. Nobody likes moving. It's terrible.
It's like the list of most 10 stressful things that can happen in your life. Moving is like number 4 or 5. It's like just below like the death of a family member. And so being able to come in and have that mindset, like, incorporate that into the guys, like, hey, we know this is a stressful time in someone's life, but being able to incorporate any kind of stress relieving activity, such as moving furniture properly, that should be the bare minimum. But also, we play music on the move. We buy dinner for the client the night before. We leave a surprise gift for them afterwards that we find out throughout the discovery process of their kind of situation, or why they're moving, or if they're coming from Georgia to Cincinnati here, maybe get them a Georgia Bulldogs, flag or something to hang in their backyard, or just something to just kind of, one, make it personalized as possible, but also make this as smooth as possible, because we know it is a stressful event. And so, I mean, we've had people, tears afterwards, hug the guys afterwards, just because we were able to alleviate that off of them. And so it's kind of what Pink Zebra is all about, is not only just moving boxes, but moving people. And so really getting to know their situation, and then incorporate that personal and that customer experience side into it. And we're going into month 14 now. We started off at 2 trucks and are now up to 8, because people have been very resonated with this model, and kind of a disruptor model in a sense. Everyone's, every moving company, there's a lot of great moving companies out there, but no one's trying to make the process fun. And when we really, I mean, we don't do it every time. It's just some situations are just very tough situations to go in there and play music in a home where a family member, just died, and we're taking their belongings to their relatives. And so being able to, but when we are able to accomplish that on a small family upgrade to a 4-bedroom house because they had another kid, and bring out our mascot Zeke and dance around during the move process, it is it's a pretty worthwhile experience that we're able to provide for our local market here in our community. And people have been very appreciative about it, for not only myself, but also the guys. I mean, they're very, we do not hire just the bare minimum guys. We have a very strict hiring process, and it is not easy to work for Pink Zebra, because what we're trying to accomplish is not easy as well. So
yeah, I mean, that's tremendous. If you can take something that is so awful for so many people to make that a fun experience, and to make it just bearable. I mean, that's a lot. That's a big service that you can provide. Wow. So how many times have you been in this zebra costume?
I think at the beginning I might have been in it once or twice, on a couple parades, but lately that has been was delegated to my manager, and then since then, a couple of the guys just really have bought into the vision, and they love Zeke. And I think there's one guy right now is kind of our go-to Zeke, more so because he's been in it enough to where it's starting to smell like him, and no one else wants to get in it because we did get it. We did dry clean Zeke a week or two back, but it doesn't take long this time of year. It's starting to cool off a little bit for a Zeke to take the scent of whoever is wearing it, in a sense. So, but they have, yeah, there's lots of fun and lots of videos that they were able to create, and really just experiences. We call it the diaper phase. Zeke kills in the diaper phase, whether it's babies or it's going into a nursing home. That's where Zeke really makes the largest impact. Your teenagers and young adults, I mean, it's fun. Take some pictures with them, but when you see that grin from ear to ear is kind of those stages of life, in a sense. So we love getting them out on those kind of moves.
How fun. That's really cool. I love that whole concept. And yeah, I mean, it's just so unique. I, definitely haven't heard of any kind of a business like this, a way of taking something so dreadful and making it pleasant. That's great.
That's why I kind of fell in love with it, because I mean it resonated to me, because the labor itself is hard, and be able to, and it built like a locker room, a sense of guys again. I kind of have that same mentality that was very comfortable with me, but also my position on the football field as a punter is kind of the quirkier of the positions on the football field. And this is kind of the quirkier of moving companies, in a sense.
Yeah.
The pink, I don't know if you've seen our trucks, they're striped pink, big old 26-foot billboard striped pink zebra all over it. And so, that spoke to me as well, because I mean, that was kind of me on the football field. I mean, we were kind of the specialists, are just kind of the oddballs of the group, and pink zebra is definitely a little bit of an oddball of this industry. But I think people it's the oddball is pretty well appreciated, when the game's on the line too. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Wow, that's really an interesting way to look at it. I mean, yeah, your unique position on the team, and now your unique company that you're with. I mean, just being different. I mean, I think that's a great just piece of advice for anybody, for any business, especially is be different and own it. Have a reason, like and get behind it and really own it, which is what you guys are doing.
well, that's how you make an impact. That's how you make a disruption. The whole model is based off the Savannah Bananas. Speaking about sports, if you're familiar, with
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
trying to accomplish in the baseball industry. The founder of Savannah Bananas, Jesse, and the founder of Pink Zebra, Ron Holt, they were actually good friends, and they started at the same time. And naturally, Savannah Bananas, they're a little bit making more headlines than Pink Zebra Moving is. A little bit easier to do that in the entertainment space, but it won't be long. We say we're unique right now, but it's a pretty strong network that we're building here, and I don't think it'll be too much longer too. Seeing more pink trucks driving down the road than some old boring box trucks that you might be used to seeing. And so that's the kind of the concept is that fans first mentality that Savannah Bananas have built, that we're trying to accomplish the same here at Pink Zebra. So
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, Savannah Bananas. I hadn't even heard of them. My kids play softball too, and I really hadn't heard of them till, I don't know, earlier this year, or maybe it was last year. And then I watched a couple of videos online, and I was like, holy crap, like
yeah,
that is crazy. Like this is phenomenal. I mean, it's very entertaining and funny. A lot of it's funny, but I mean, it takes like real skill to do what they're doing at the same time. Kind of like, with the moving for you guys, I guess it's like, obviously that's a lot of hard work and takes skill, but it was so effective and entertaining. And I can imagine, I would definitely want to go to a game after having seen that. It's really cool.
yeah. No, I mean, they've taken it to another level, and that's just something that we're trying to replicate. And it's funny too. I mean, yeah, you say it's so entertaining, so different, but I mean, there's some baseball truists that are huge haters of that. They don't believe that's how things should be going. And I mean, we have some people, when we try to tell them what we're trying to accomplish here, playing music on the move and doing all these extra stuff that isn't necessary for a move. We've had some movers that didn't want to work here because of that, for one reason or another, or some people that didn't want to book with us because they're like, I just want my stuff moved. I don't need any of that extra stuff. And we're like, that's fine. We're probably not a good fit. Let's just be honest. That's, before we go down this road anymore, if that's kind of the personality that's not the personality we're trying to attract here and what we're trying to do. But I think the more that people start to come and contact with Savannah Bananas, and also kind of what we're trying to accomplish here in the moving industry, people are starting to come around on it, and that's going to become more of a normal thing than a unique thing, hopefully. So,
Yeah. I think that's fantastic. I mean, that was a great attitude to have there with on both on the employee side, where you really don't want people on your team that hate fun or aren't in alignment with the whole purpose, that what you guys are providing to your clients, which is unique. If you got people who just want to do the work, just want to move boxes and lift things up and and drive a truck, sounds like it's not the best fit. And it's smart to keep these people off of your team. And then on the customer side, it's I mean, as a business owner, it's got to be hard saying no to work, people willing to pay money
right.
for a service. But at the same time, like you're saying, like hey, this is what we're all about. And if you're not about what we're about, then there's lots of other options out there.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, it definitely the first couple of times it's hard, but in the natural word of mouth that comes from doing something that's extraordinary, you don't have to do as much marketing as you might have to do in a regular when you're just trying to attract those kind of clientele. The people that are looking for a different experience, we've come to notice that they seek us after a certain time when they hear what else is out there, and whether they're friends, neighbors, or they just see the truck and it piques their interest. There's a lot more of those people than there are the Debbie Downers of this world that we've come to notice, and so everybody enjoys those moves a lot more than the ones that are just needing some boxes moved around for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned, you've been doing this for like 14 months. Is that right? So barely over a year, and you've gone from 2 trucks to 8 trucks. Like that's incredible. That's phenomenal. Do you mind sharing a bit about like what that growth was like, and maybe start telling us by like what do you anticipate like this year you'll do in gross revenue?
This year we should just do over 2 million for what we're looking at right now. That's kind of how it's tracking. I think we just passed 1.5, and with how the last couple of months here, it's supposed to kind of trail off the end of the year, but we're still technically pretty young, so we don't see too much seasonality quite yet. I anticipate us to continue to grow through the off season in a sense, or at least maintain. In the last couple of months, we've grown probably about 25,000 to 50,000 each month from March on, the beginning of this year. And so naturally, yeah, you're doing things the right way, making moving fun. The revenue will follow. That's the least of my concern at the moment. Now it's just making sure I got enough guys and enough trucks on the road to handle the work that we're getting. But I forget the first part of your question. What was the first
Sorry,
question?
yeah. I mean, it's really this. It's like it's growth. Like, how do you go from
The growth.
2 to 8? Like, what's that like?
I mean, there's definitely some growing pains, but what we have come to notice, we find the best work and the best guys from our core guys that started with us. It's not like I need to go to Indeed or any of those places to continue to keep staff in the trucks. Like the guys that are here, they have the mover world is pretty small, and the guys that are buying into this kind of what we're trying to accomplish here, they want to tell their buddies that they worked at another moving industry what's going on here, why it's different. They're making more money here because we're taking care of the clients better and they're getting tipped better. Whatever it may be. And certainly the word of mouth out in the community helps me fill those 8 trucks on a weekly basis. And so, I mean, you just don't buy an extra 6 trucks just because you hope the work will come. It was very calculated. Like, okay, I see next month already in a month in advance, we've got more money on the revenue than we even did a month prior. And so being able to kind of forecast and certainly, I've been basically from day one, very much an owner operator and seeing it kind of from the ground level here. And so I have a pretty good feel on exactly every single thing that's going on in the business. And that has helped be able to calculate this growth and, when I should need to buy a truck or what have you. And so, that's been a huge part of it, but just trusting in the guys that we're bringing on, that we'll keep bringing on, what you were talking about, you don't want any bad apples. Right now we got a really good culture and continue to attract the good guys, attract better, good guys. And so continuing to kind of weed out anybody that's not buying into it, and it continues to let that grow because the good guys don't start getting mad because, we're bringing in guys just because we have extra amount of work and they're not quite buying into the vision here. So It's sometimes if I need to rent a truck or if I got to be on a truck myself, that might happen. But that's just the nature of the beast here with the kind of growth we've seen over the course of the last couple of months here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool to hear about, a lot of people who aren't in business, they get worried about, labor, right? And what that's like to hire people and what it's like to hire people and retain them. And they fear that, they're never going to be able to find good people and they're always going to have to be hiring. And from what you said, it sounds like you're able to retain people because you're hiring the right people, but also because of the culture that you've built, you're finding the right people that fit that culture, and and they're not just staying, but they're even telling their friends. And so that's pretty amazing. And I think that's a great lesson for people that are out there that are trying to build a great team and want to make sure that they're still going to be around.
Yeah, I've got a lot of brothers, a lot of cousins that work here as well, and even a sister. I've got two brothers and a sister that works here. She helps me more on the marketing side, and so I'm like, bring them on, bring on the whole family.
Come on.
So it's fun. That makes work fun, and ultimately makes moving fun. If you're out there working with people, not only that you like working with, but you even love. They're your brother, your family member that you grew up with. I mean, how cool is that to be able to go out and hang out with your brother all day long, and so being able to put people together that create that kind of same kind of camaraderie has been kind of special to see as well, and the bonds that are created throughout this industry. I mean, I certainly saw it a lot in sports. You go out there and you play a football game, have a big victory. Those guys, you're bonded more than just as a teammate. After that game, I mean, that's a lifelong friend. And guys that are on the truck together and going through certain situations. I mean, obviously you're working with the client all day, but naturally you got a guy next to you that you're leaning on and counting on them. That's a teammate. And building that relationship, a lot of guys, they hang out after. They never knew each other before they started working here, and now they're going and playing pool together or playing video games at night or what have you. And so seeing the friendships that are created as well, that certainly helps the labor force and alleviate a lot of that stress off the business.
Yeah, that's really cool. If you're finding today's conversation valuable, I'd like to offer you my free guide, the Franchise Fit Playbook, a champion's guide to choosing the right business. This comprehensive resource walks you through the exact process I use with my coaching clients to identify their perfect franchise match. Download it for free at athletetoowner.com/playbook. You'll find the link in the show notes. Now, let's get back to our show. Well, tell us about how, your background in sports and, being a competitive athlete, how that has translated into success in the business world.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the whole process of sports. I mean, certainly football itself is, a heck of a, teacher just of life and the lessons there and what it took to get to, the NFL. I mean, the top 1% of the 1%. And so knowing the necessary kind of effort and the extra hours that you had to put in to refine your craft and make it to that, certain stage of that career, that's very easily that work ethic carried over into this. And so kind of was talking about before, having that coach as a franchise, I knew what it took to get to the NFL. So I knew I was going to, whatever it took to, make this successful. I knew that was what I was going to be. What business or what I was going to get into after I was done, didn't know exactly, but I knew that the work itself was going to come because I'd done it before. So the confidence, you get just because I knew the kind of effort that it took for me to get to the level I got in my playing career. The sky was a limit if someone else gave me the same kind of playbook in the business world. And so, I mean, that was just the biggest thing from the level of success I had in sports, was just the confidence that no matter whatever else I went into, I had the work. I'd done it once, You've done it once, you can do it again. Certainly if you see other business owners that are having success, and like, there's nothing different, nothing more special about them. And really, that's what I've come to learn about just life itself and having success is just, doing something really good over a consistent period of time. And so showing up and just going to work every single day, that is how you build something that you're proud of. And so that was very much, and every single day I saw that in the sports world. And And here I can do one thing here and can immediately impact my business the next day. In sports world, if I spend a couple extra time on Tuesday or whatever, I had to wait till Saturday or Sunday to actually see if it actually paid off. Here I can go and put in some new system in my business and effective immediately that next day. That can be a better operating system. And so it's honestly been more satisfying, in this part of my life than it was before, because as a punter, I was on the field for like a minute at the time. So sometimes the extra 300 plus hours I put in after practice, I had 1.2 seconds to prove that I did those extra 300 hours. You put an extra 300 hours into your business, watch out.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I could see how that's gratifying. We see a little more immediate results.
Right, for sure.
Well, I think one thing that's really interesting that you said there was about sports and the training aspect of things was the confidence that you built, and which is really, it's the belief in yourself that you are able to do hard things, right? You can learn new things. You are coachable, and you are, I guess, I don't know, eager to learn and to get better and improve. And because you know that you're willing to put the effort in, and that effort is going to translate into success.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, and I think that was just such a testament to the first year of business. And certainly our industry is full of flaws, and it has a lot of rough days, especially in that first year, just like any first year of a new small business. And so, having that confidence kind of in the back pocket that, hey, you just keep pushing this thing, it'll work out. Kind of what I was talking about earlier, just like you're going to get told no. A truck's going to break down. A guy's going to quit on you for one reason or another, and you're going to be, stuck there. You got a decision. Am I going to drive that truck and make that customer happy, or am I call off and, maybe attract a negative review on your landing page? And so just being able to, be willing to do whatever it takes to be successful. And then if something doesn't go your way, that you're giving it your all, and then things will work out, in the end. Seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, in a sense, that's also gives you a little bit of confidence while you're going through that first year. I get a lot of prospects looking into Pink Zebra now. I think just with the momentum we're having now in the industry, and having a little bit more of a track record, where I think we're up to like 14 locations, and so having a lot of success stories throughout that process is attracting a lot of people to the franchise itself right now. So pretty much once a day, I have someone call me, kind of looking into the business, and they always ask me like, how was that first year? Like, well, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It's just the nature of being in the first year, but I wouldn't change anything either. I mean, that completely embodies what how the foundation of this thing is going to be built. And I'm glad I went through all the rough days and the mistakes that we made in the first year, because that makes year two a heck of a lot better. And so I was glad I saw it from the ground level too. I didn't want to just rely on my manager to figure everything out, and then I just sit back in my recliner, which I don't think happens in this industry, to get it to where you're happy with. But yeah, that's definitely a huge part of just being a business owner, in a sense. Being confident in yourself, even when maybe no one else believes in you either. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so tell me a little bit more about this first year. I know it sounds like it was painful, which is, it's, I think, par for the course for most new businesses, right? So, but for those who have never been in business before, like, tell me what that was like. Like, what were some of those struggles?
The biggest struggle is trying to keep your guys, happy, having to work for them. When you start off day one, you don't have a single job on the schedule. So I'm sitting there with 2 trucks and a handful of guys, and just trying to make them believe that the work will come if we just keep going out there and doing the marketing, and we driving trucks around, just kind of keep trying a way to keep them happy, to where that they're going to stick with us. And when that work is, when we start to get that snowball effect coming. And so just going out and just scratching and clawing every single day, doing a lot of grassroots marketing, shaking hands and kissing babies, basically Monday through Friday. I'm in a B&I group, or going to some realtor office and giving a presentation. Completely different lifestyle than what I'm living right now. It's just because you're trying to you establish yourself in the community in a industry that has been established for, the last 50 years. A lot of people, a lot of big dogs that have a great name and recognition, and you're trying to make someone trust you to move their grandma's antique furniture that when you've got 3 Google reviews on the books or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and trying to charge a premium because this industry is expensive, and if you're not charging appropriately, you find yourself in a hole pretty quick. And so, selling the dream, even if you might not have it all figured out yourself yet, but so that comes along with the confidence itself. That because if you aren't confident in that and you don't get that work, you're never going to have enough work to, build confidence not only in your company but also the guys themselves. And so there were definitely some tough days. I mean, I was fortunate enough to where we jumped out of the gates pretty quickly. The first month we were real slow. I mean, we did like 20,000, but the preceding months we did close to 80,000 in revenue. And so, but that just come a lot, testament to my manager also being on the same page as me and understanding that, hey, we just got to stir up business, and the guys that we have right now, we're very confident in them. They're going to great work out in the field, and that snowball will turn itself pretty quickly rather than us just hoping that Google lead or something's going to, make that phone ring. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So when we spoke earlier, you mentioned that you were contemplating, buying an existing business, and that was maybe before you found this particular franchise. What made you decide to go with the franchise business?
yeah. My wife and I originally, when we first, felt like we were on the end of my career there, and we felt like we wanted to get into business in a sense. The first thing she recommended, I don't know if she saw TikTok or what she saw, but she's like, there's kind of a trend lately where people are buying, kind of mom and pop shops that have been in an area for 30 plus years, built some great brand recognition, and they're kind of phasing out. They didn't really have any kids or whatnot, anybody to just kind of hand the business off to, and they're just closing their shops up when they don't realize, the kind of money just that they've created, they built into their business because of the respect and things that they've gained in the community. And so, maybe being able to, take over one of those and kind of build it into my own little vision, but also having that natural, workflow that they've built over the years, that was something that we're looking at it. Nothing really jumped off the page in our local area. Again, I don't know if I mentioned to you before or now, but I mean, I married my neighbor, so I have a lot of family in the area, so we weren't looking to move either. If there was a better opportunity, a couple hours away, we wanted something that we could stay in our immediate, our hometown, both my wife and I. And so nothing really drew our attention in the immediate area. So then we started looking into. Then we started going to the franchise, looking in the franchise, and literally we looked at one page of franchises, and it was probably like number 15 or 16 down. It was Pink Zebra. Just like I was telling you, I don't know if it jumped off the page because it was either pink or if it was what I was supposed to do. I kind of fell in love, read a quick little synopsis about it, kind of fell in love with what they were doing about kind of the industry. There was a local moving company in town. They closed over COVID because of lack of labor. Couldn't find anybody to work. And so I was like, well, there's immediate need in my area. There's this kind of cool concept that they're going to incorporate into this immediate need in my area. And that's something I could kind of be excited about to try to build and wake up and try to grow every single day. And so that's ultimately, I guess, how it wound up in franchising. And certainly once talking to I've heard a lot of bad things, doing a lot of research about franchises and just trying to sell territories, and and then after they sell your territory, they sell you on the drain, they move on to the next person they're just trying to sell to, and they don't really support you. That has not been my experience by any means. They're a phone call away for any question that I have. And so I don't know if I just got lucky or if that's just the experience that most people are. You only hear about the bad experiences. Maybe that's the majority, but that's certainly been my experience. And kind of going back to the coaching concept as well, that's also, I didn't realize it at the time how helpful that would be, but certainly that first year, I called them a lot more than I do now. And so then being able to get through some of those dark days instead of just banging your head on the wall, having somebody that you can ask a question to, certainly have not regretted that decision by any means.
That's great. Yeah, there are a lot of franchises out there. I think there's over 6,000 or 7,000 that are out there. So I'm glad you stumbled upon the right one for you. But there, for the ones that you hear a lot of complaints about, or you got a lot of negativity, I think there are there are some of those that are out there, unfortunately. And so it's great to hear, especially in your case, and in many cases, the franchisors that actually provide the support that is needed. And they're not just about selling franchises, but they actually want people to succeed in their businesses, which should be their goal. Tell us a little bit about kind of what that was like from the support end of things, like how you got started, like what, what training was like, and, yeah, how they helped you grow from nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know anything really. Actually, throughout the discovery process, and this is just me personally, this is how I operate. I actually took a job at a local moving company here. It was in Kentucky, which is from me, it's like 20 minutes away. So I mean, I just want to learn the industry itself just from the ground level, kind of like what I was talking about with my dad, stocking shelves up to kind of learning the higher level management kind of roles. And so that definitely was very eye opening to me. And then certainly having them help me understand how to build systems and what to look for when you're hiring the right person. And then the main thing has just been kind of making sure you understand how to make what we're trying to accomplish here happen, the making moving fun portion. And so not that I wouldn't be able to maybe figure that myself, but certainly they've given me a lot of guidance in that area. And focusing on that more than anything else, everything else is kind of taking care of itself. But no, they did a great job of one, explaining just how to get everything set up, and then also the training itself. They bring you down there for a week to do some hands-on training before they come out here for a week and do training with your immediate team and everything of that nature. And so they're very hands-on at the beginning. Certainly let you go out of the nest and try to fly on your own. And then while you're sitting there flapping your wings and trying to figure things out and hitting rainstorms and everything in between, they're very supportive throughout that process as well, whether because every single person is going through it, and they don't just like, oh, this is, it'll all work out. They take direct attention, certainly at the beginning there, making sure that you feel very supportive. And while you have a lot of those maybe tedious questions to them, because where I'm at now, the questions I was asking, year one, I'm like, oh man, that was just such a no-brainer with common sense, but they didn't act like it was, just like, oh, true, this is common sense. Just, this is what you do, figure it out. Taking a lot of pride in just making sure I felt supportive. And certainly if they were not that way, I would be singing a different tune, because, royalty fees certainly come with franchising. And so making sure that I was getting my money's worth, I made sure to get that. But yeah, very comfortable with the relationship I built with them, and then certainly how they've helped me get to this point in the process.
That's great. That's really great to hear. First year of any business is always going to be the toughest, and you're spending a lot of time, a lot of hours into it. Month 14, 15 here now. What's life like, the work-life balance situation like for you now?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the day. Today was a good day. I came in. The thing I always enjoy the most is coming in, making breakfast for the guys, having our team meeting, giving them a spiel about either whatever I want that day, whether it be, a certain job that we have that day, or maybe it might be more logistics one day, and then the next day might just be more about life or anything that I've been thinking about lately. So that's very important to me, because the first hour of the day, from 7:30 to 8:30, from when they're here to when they dispatch on the trucks, that's the most important hour of our whole day. So making sure I'm here for that. After that, once they're on the trucks, really a lot of it goes to my operations team and making sure things go smoothly throughout the day. Fortunately, I have a lot of guys that have been with me for multiple months now and understand the system and the culture and what we're trying to build here. And so I've done a lot of great work. I've got a lot of great reviews, and that's something that we're very confident that they do every single time we put them on the truck. So a lot of times after they dispatch, the main focus is kind of sales and marketing. So making sure that the marketing team is understanding the objectives of the day and has their everything in alignment for their call center and the internet and everything of that nature, which certainly isn't an issue most of the time. And really, I can kind of do whatever I want, whether it be continuing to work on the business, if there's some system I want to improve or put in some new, whatever, buy a truck or anything of that nature, or if everything else is kind of taken care of and nothing's on the, on the frying pan at the moment, then today I went and picked up my daughter from preschool, and we went and had lunch afterwards. And so, I didn't have those moments the first year, and having that flexibility now, mainly because of just the people I brought in, the great people that I've, been able to find and support and train and get them understanding the system. and rely on them, and kind of it's hard to do that just because this is kind of your baby. I said I have two daughters, but this is really, it feels like one of my kids as well.
For
Every
sure.
single small business owner might be able to understand that as well. But so the first time you take that day off, or you go out and have lunch and you expect things to not burn down, it's pretty scary. But after you do it a couple times, you get used to it. And certainly that's ultimately what I wanted to, achieve from, starting this business, was having more of that time to be able to spend with the kids and have that flexibility in a sense. But also, I don't see myself ever completely taking my hands off, because one, that's just me personally, and two, that's what my dad has done as well. I've just seen him, he's taking a lot of pride in his work, but also, the level of expectations, and I never want to completely take my hands off of it. And because this thing can spiral out of pretty quickly in this industry when you're dealing with trucks and people, so always making sure that you show face and continue to keep that culture strong. I feel like that's something I'm always going to, enjoy and take a lot of pride in.
That's awesome. Last question. For anyone listening who's considering franchise ownership, what's one piece of advice you'd give them?
Just do your due diligence, really. I mean, I certainly had no idea what I was getting myself into first time.
Would you recommend working with a franchise coach to help them guide them along the process?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't work with one, but
I
I've
know.
talked to a lot of people that reach out to me. They were recommended by a franchise coach, and I mean, if they were recommended Pink Zebra, that means they must know a little bit of what they're talking about. And so, yeah, I mean, whether it be listening to a franchise coach or doing your own due diligence and calling every single, because that's what a lot of people will call me now. I'm like, hey, what should I be doing now to kind of get ready? Like, continue to get to learn every single thing you can about whether this industry or whatever you want to get into. Make as many of those, prospect calls as you possibly can to those prospective franchise owners that you can get a hold of, because
Yeah.
everybody's got a different story. Everybody's got a different relationship with, the franchisor or anything of that nature. And so make sure you paint yourself as, as clear of a picture as you possibly can, because that first day is going to happen. And you don't want to feel blindsided. You want to be able to kind of expect what's coming, and, build out a game plan. We never went into a football game without a game plan. And so you shouldn't do the same thing when you're going into the business as well. And, having a franchise, that's a heck of a way to already instill in a game plan from day one. But even if you don't do it yourself, or you don't go the franchise route, there's a lot of other people that have done it before you, or if nothing else, Google, Chat GPT in a sense. And there's a lot of different information out there, even if you don't, want to pick up a phone call itself. That's certainly the best way I would do it. But if you can't get direct answers from someone directly, I can guarantee you ChatGPT has an opinion that's not always too far off. So
Yeah. Yeah, doing those validation calls is so important. Speaking with the existing owners, especially I think getting the range of people in the system, someone who's like performing at the highest level, such as yourself, people that are kind of in the middle of the system, people that are, on the lower end of the system, trying to find out why you're so successful, and, on the other end, maybe, what are you struggling with? What is it, what are the reasons why you're not doing as well? I think that, like you said, just painting the clearest picture in your mind that you can before making a commitment, I think is a smart thing.
no, 100%. And that's something I probably could have done a better job of, but it is too late now. We're in too late, and luckily, like I said, we made it work. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, congratulations, Drew, on being a franchise champion, and I really appreciate you joining me on the show today.
no, I appreciate the interview and the time you spent with me as well, Alan. So I'm excited to help. And certainly, if anybody has any other questions, or if you get any questions from this, I'm pretty much an open book and happy to talk business. I'm kind of addicted to business at this sense, and whether it be certainly moving, I know a lot about that, but I just love learning about people's stories and the different things that people are interested in the business, just the whole business world itself. I've just kind of really gravitated to it, and has truly felt like a calling on my own, and something I can never learn enough about, I feel like, at this point. So pretty cool what you do.
That's really cool. That's really cool. How can people get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of, we are pretty active on social media. That'd be Pink Zebra Moving Tri-State. They can direct message me there. Certainly, if they want to call our office line, they can reach us at 844-MOVE-FUN. especially if they need a move done, we can do that for them as well. Couch to house, coast to coast. So if there's not a Pink Zebra moving location near you, I'll be happy to help out in some way, shape, or form. So
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Drew. I will put the information in the show notes.
all right, sounds good.
Yeah. Have a great day.
You too, Alan.
Thanks. If you find value in my content, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a rating wherever you're listening or watching. Or if you have suggestions for topics or improvements, shoot me a message directly. Your support means a lot to me. Thanks for listening to the Franchise Champion Show. I'm Alan Regala, and I'll see you next week.